What's the real difference between feeling sad and being crushed by the weight of depression? This is more than just a question, it's a reality for millions. In fact, major depression is one of the most common mental disorders in the United States. In 2021 alone, an estimated 21 million adults in the US had at least one major depressive episode, and that's not counting adolescents, where about 1 in 5 have experienced it too. At the time of this recording, the World Health Organization says that depression is the leading cause of disability worldwide. Yet, despite how common it is, a huge number of people, in some studies nearly half of adults with major depression, don't receive any treatment. This video is for you if you've ever wondered if your sadness is something more. It's for you if you're watching someone you love disappear into a fog you don't understand. And it's for anyone who just wants to know what depression truly means beyond the textbook definition. I wrestled with that question for years because I've lived with major depressive disorder for most of my adult life. I wanted to have a real conversation about what this condition is from my personal experience and from a clinical perspective. That's why I've brought in an expert to help us understand the whole picture. My name is Mike Vini and I'm a certified corporate wellness specialist.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mallory Malkin. I am Mike's friend as well as a licensed clinical psychologist and excited to be here.
If you want to get in touch with us, our contact information is in the description below. So let's get into it. In this video, we'll be discussing depression. If you feel triggered or are experiencing thoughts of self-harm, please seek support from a qualified mental health professional, or in the United States, call or text 988. This content is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. So let's start with what we actually mean by depression. It's a word that gets thrown around so casually in our society. You hear it all the time, right? Someone says they're depressed because their favorite show got canceled or they had a bad week at work. When we use that word loosely, it waters down its meaning and contributes to a massive misunderstanding. The casual misuse adds to the stigma around mental health because it makes it harder for people to see clinical depression for what it is, a serious medical condition. A core part of health literacy is educating yourself on what terms you hear or use actually mean, separating the everyday feeling of being bummed out from a debilitating illness. Here's what Dr. Malkin had to say.
So major depressive disorder is an actual clinical diagnosis, and it's different than just being sad. So oftentimes they get conflated. Yes, sadness is part of major depressive disorder, but sadness is a normal, typical emotional reaction, doesn't normally impact functioning in terms of being around your family and going to work. Whereas major depressive disorder, those symptoms, depressed mood most of the day, lack of enjoyment in things, difficulty in finding positive emotion, experiencing positive emotion, those occur most days than not, and it lasts about 2 weeks or longer. And that's when it becomes more of a clinical condition, because usually at that point it's starting to affect ability to get to work on time or complete tasks, doing household chores or engaging with your family. So it's not there's more direct impact to your functioning, and it's problematic. So those are typically the symptoms associated with major depressive disorder that are pervasive and warrant some sort of clinical treatment.
For me, it's not even a bad mood. It's like the color literally drained from my world. I think about the things that I love, playing the drums, a night out with friends, and I feel nothing, just blank. It's not sadness, it's an emptiness. And at its worst, I feel like I am a ghost watching my own life instead of living it. That's what the loss of interest you hear about in textbooks actually feels like. And that inability to function touches everything. For me, it's also a physical experience. There's a literal pain that comes with my depression. It's not a sharp or dramatic pain, but a constant heavy ache that proves this isn't just in my head, it's in my body. Normally, I'm a very driven, high energy person. I love to achieve my goals, but when a depressive episode hits, getting out of bed can feel impossible. Socially, I completely shut down, isolate, and avoid talking to anyone. Basic self-care like showering falls by the wayside. There are fundamental things you need to do to function, and suddenly they feel monumental. Even working for myself, it has made it incredibly hard to maintain a consistent schedule for things I'm passionate about, like making YouTube videos for you. This distinction really gets confusing when life throws horrible things at you. In 2016, I lost my mom after a long battle with cancer, and around the same time, an artist I played drums for and loved dearly also passed away. That's grief, right? But when those feelings of devastation lasted far longer than 2 weeks, I started to wonder, is this still grief or has it become depression? But I already have depression, so how can I tell the difference? It's a confusing line to walk, and so here's what Dr. Malkin had to say about grief.
So that's in response to an actual stressor, an event that happened. So it's a little different there. So loss of a job, major life transition, lost at your house or move, death in the family, divorce, where there's an actual identifiable stressor. It's very reasonable to have a period of grieving and loss. And for some, it takes longer than others. And so you're not going to feel perfect and wrapped in a bow in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Sometimes it's several months, up to a year before you start feeling back to your normal, your baseline. So in those instances, it's up to seeing a clinical professional if you feel like it goes above and beyond what is appropriate for the situation that's occurred. And so if you think it's beyond just sadness and an appropriate normal reaction, and you might have a significant financial disruption or an employment situation or a family situation as a result of the symptoms you're experiencing, that's when there would be something to address.
I get what she's saying about utilizing a mental health professional, but come on. We live in a world where I have access to all the information, and I just talked to you about health literacy, right? Learning as much as you can about terms. I could just go on certain websites and look at the symptoms and take several quizzes to figure out my diagnosis, right? Like, I don't need a mental health professional, or do I? In fact, what are your thoughts on this? Please comment below and let me know. Here's what Dr. Malkin had to say.
There's a time and a place for self-awareness and self-diagnosing in terms of identifying that there's something to be of concern. I wouldn't recommend WebMDing or Googling your symptoms, throwing it into AI and seeing what it churns out, and that is the black and white version of whatever it is that you're dealing with. Because we're more than just robots, we're more than just words on the paper or within the DSM-5. There's clinical discretion and subjectivity there to understand what's going on because you're a whole person. So looking at it from a holistic approach, when you self-diagnose, you're typically tunnel visioned and you're focused on just one thing and maybe not understanding external things in the background that could be impacting what you have going on. So I think it's important that if you have a concern that you're dealing with something that is just not right, you don't feel comfortable in your skin, you're having symptoms, that you reach out to a professional. You lay it all out A to Z and have a dialogue and a discussion so that you're educated in what's going on. You're also educating that professional, and they've gone to school, they have the training, they have the background to give you an educated idea of what's going on and how to approach it effectively. Because there's only so many hours in the day, and we want to feel better, and we want to feel better quickly. And sometimes there's more efficient and effective ways to go about doing that.
Again, I get the whole see a therapist thing, but let's be realistic. I've got people I follow on TikTok and YouTube who are licensed therapists and psychiatrists, and you can just scroll through the comments and see thousands of people saying how much their content helped them. They're breaking down the DSM-5 criteria, they're giving you coping strategies. It feels like I can get all the information I need right here on my phone. And now with AI, you can literally plug your symptoms into a chatbot and get a pretty detailed analysis. It just seems like the world has moved on. Do I really need to go through the whole process of finding a therapist, or can I just piece together a diagnosis myself with all of these new tools?
So we cannot be our own therapists. We can't be our providers because we're already biased. And we have lived our life, we have our perspective. And so I think it's important to tap into seeing a professional when needed. It's not necessarily for some. Some people will see a therapist, psychologist weekly for years, and that's just what they need. Other individuals, they might go a couple of years in between seeing providers or engaging in services. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's whatever you need in that moment and what you need for your own well-being, and there's no judgment there. But you've got to recognize that we have our own biased perspective about ourselves, and so a professional comes in as an objective third party and kind of looks at it from a different way, and helps you think about things a little differently so that you're not stuck. And that's oftentimes what a therapist, psychologist is looking for, is trying to get you unstuck, a different way of thinking about something, a different way about responding or feeling when you're having difficulties and struggling.
Dr. Malkin couldn't have said it better. The idea of getting help is what gets you unstuck. Because when you are living with major depression, you don't just feel stuck, you are stuck. It's a prison in your mind, and you can't get out of it on your own, no matter how determined you are. You need outside help, even when it feels impossible. There's what you know about yourself, what you don't know about yourself, and then there's what you don't know that you didn't realize that you didn't know until you start the process of getting professional help. Speaking of which, let's talk health literacy again, because you'll hear the words therapy and counseling used interchangeably. But in my experience, it helps to know the difference. Therapy is often a longer-term process where you work with a mental health professional for treatment regularly for months or even years to work on complex issues. Counseling tends to be shorter term, focused on specific problems or situations. Both are incredibly valuable tools for getting unstuck. As we wrap up, I want to give a special thank you to my friend, Dr. Mallory Malkin, for sharing her wisdom with you. You can find both her contact information and mine in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this conversation helpful, please click that like button and consider subscribing so you don't miss my future videos. And please share this with someone who might need to see it. I invite you to click or tap on the screen to watch the next video. In it, Dr. Malkin and I are going to dive deeper into the symptoms of major depressive disorder, including some ones that you might not realize are connected. You won't want to miss it. I'll see you there.